Welcome to Charts Today. My name is David Linton, and today's recording for Thursday, the 1st of December, comes to you from London. And the really big story yesterday was the move in oil, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But first of all, we'll start with the dollar. Just holding this 101, it's really just paused here. The fact that it's holding these levels and not pulling back is a sign of strength, and so we are seeing that. We do have these upside targets to 103, 105 almost on the dollar index. That's about 1.5% and 3.5% upside respectively. We've got another 4% upside on the long-term target here, and then very big upside. So it's interesting that we are just seeing that strength always coming back, and so dollar is back above the cloud now after it's in this range at the moment. But if we break 102, we go higher. We go below 100.75, then we pull back and go lower. But at the moment, it's all about dollar strength. We are seeing the euro up slightly this morning, so a bit of a mixed picture there with a strong dollar, but really is just sort of below the cloud here. And we do have these clustering targets downside to 104. That looks more and more likely now. So the euro weakness will kick back in at some point, probably on the chart. We look at the Japanese yen. Dollar continues to rise here. We had a little bit of a pullback this overnight, but we're again making another move for a higher high here on the 60-minute chart. We've got an upside potential of 116, so that's 1.6% upside, and we're seeing just on the daily chart, it's just really just a very solid run. We might hit some resistance on the cloud here on the long-term position, but really it's still very much about dollar strength. Sterling also strengthening a bit as well, even strengthening past the dollar here, making new highs. So that's quite significant. We aren't anywhere near through on the cloud, and we should expect quite strong resistance at about 126. That's the cloud level there. So we shouldn't be at all surprised if that kicks in. We look at the euro sterling rate, we're seeing that strength just showing through again on sterling. 118 is the level that we're currently on the euro, and we are just wandering through on the cloud. So euro weakness starting to show through on this chart as well. And we take a look at the sterling Swiss chart. Sterling just wandering through here as well, just showing some renewed strength too. Australian dollar, that's really kicking, the sterling kicking higher there, so we're seeing some weakness kicking in there too. The US stock market last night pulled back just below that 2200 level, so just not quite holding it, but still bullish above the cloud, still bullish upside targets, still looking pretty bullish all round. Nasdaq did pull back a bit more, but we're still above the cloud on the lagging line. We just can't break this 4,900 level at the moment. Dow making new highs, continuing to run, looking pretty strong. And the Russell has had a bit of a sell-off after such an amazing run, which we can see here on the daily chart. So we shouldn't be that surprised there. The futures this morning, just looking at the Nasdaq E-mini, that's just falling down a bit here below the cloud. So it is a bit bearish on that chart. FTSE, again, bearish below the cloud, downside targets in the short term, new downside target emerging here and just wandering through the cloud. So FTSE just lacking that strength that we're seeing in international indices, and that's also true on the FTSE 250. If we take a look at the DAX, DAX just really struggling to break this 10,800 level. Really just can't get through that level. Strong resistance. If we do break that, then we would expect the DAX to really run. But at the moment, we're in another sell-off here, just getting downside targets. Nikkei overnight was up another 1%, showing that strength. Weaker yen, stronger stocks in Japan. And China is also up. Shanghai up nearly 0.75%. Hang Seng up not as much, but still bullish through the crowd. Asian markets looking better all round, really. Even the Sensex now just wandering through on the short term. Upside targets there. So it's seeing a recovery there. Australian index also up 1%. Weaker Australian dollar helping there. Bullish on the weekly, now bullish on the daily, and bullish on the 60-minute. So that market now showing a turnaround. As I said, the big story was crude. The jump in price yesterday on the OPEC announcement really jumped higher. So we're now bullish on these clouds, but not quite through yet on the long-term chart. So we might see a pullback on crude, but we do have new upside targets into the high 50s, 60s. Might be a turning point for crude oil. Just keep an eye on those charts. Interestingly, if we look at the long-term picture, we now have this change in trend with these moves, and we do have some upside targets, 58.72 on Brent. So we are seeing significant upside potential. We're going into the strong quarter as well, so we shouldn't be that surprised to see a recovery in Brent crude. WTI, much the same picture, of course, just selling off a little bit more at the moment on the 60-minute chart, but we do have similar upside potential. Taking a look at nat gas, it jumped out yesterday, just trying to get out of this range this morning. 338, just starting to take out this previous high that we saw in October, and through on the weekly convincingly. So US nat gas now looking pretty strong. 344 is the short-term target on the 60-minute chart. If we take a look at gold, gold's selling off some more, down 1/3%, still bearish below the cloud. We do have a new upside target, but not yet activated. Looking for a floor somewhere. Bearish on the daily, and just now starting to look a bit more worrying on the weekly as well. And if we look at the 60-minute chart on silver, below there as well. So we are just seeing precious metals struggling to hold the levels at the moment. If we look at copper, still bearish on the short-term chart, but the daily and weekly charts looking pretty good, and so we are still seeing long-term targets there. 10-year jumped again last night, up on the Treasury bond 2.4% now, so we are just making new highs, really showing that run in US interest rates. Look at some bellwethers. Apple's just above the cloud, got a downside target here for 2%. Google just holding on there as well. Amazon, we see that as well. We're just holding on, but just wandering back through the cloud. The daily chart not looking so good. Facebook, again, just holding on here, but this daily chart looking a little bit worrying. But what a long-term trend we're seeing there. And then Microsoft, just again holding on, some good upside targets. Pretty mixed picture on tech at the moment. We just need to see the Nasdaq breaking those highs. But keep an eye out on the crude oil chart. That's going to be the key. What happens now? It does look like in the very short term it's going to pull back a bit. But if we go higher, of course, that's showing increased strength. That's it for today. Until tomorrow, happy charting. See you then.